Today, we are going to talk about how to talk about yourself. I know that it's hard, especially as a wedding photographer or just a photographer in general. Words are hard. It's hard to use your brand voice and your copy and your messaging and just to talk about yourself in general. I know that can kind of be tricky. So, we are going to break it down and we're going to talk about it today. Hello, sunshine, and welcome back to the Gold Biz Podcast with me, your host, Rachel Traxler. I'm kind of excited to talk about this one because it's something I've struggled with and still do struggle with. I hate talking about myself and I hate doing it in a way that is converting and impactful. So, we're just going to break down some different ways that you can approach and just change the way that you're talking about yourself. Because I think a lot of us think we need to do things in a specific way, and that's just not always the case. But I'm going to give you 5 different ways that you can approach and break down and use in your copy and switch it up and use it today. So buckle up. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited to talk about it. And it's been a minute since I've done a little solo episode. So welcome back. Pull up a chair, pull up your notes app, whatever you need to do. And I'm excited to spend some time with you today. Here we go. Let's dive in. All right, you guys know I don't like to waste time around here. So we are just going to dive right on in. We are going to today in this episode change the way that you are talking about yourself. And if just the thought of writing an about me section or telling people what you do when they ask you or talking about yourself or giving a bio or pitching yourself for some type of collaboration, anything like that, if that makes you kind of just like crawl in your skin a little bit of like, I don't know what to say. I don't want to come across like I'm bragging. How do I approach that? What do I do? This is going to be a good episode. We're going to break it down. So, the first thing that I want you to do to change the way you talk about yourself is figure out your one-liner messaging. And this needs to be so simple, like simplified so much that someone in an elementary school student age kid could read and understand. And I think with that is everyone thinks they have to be so different and so unique, but let's just start really simple. What you do in the most simplified way. And you could even throw in a few of your brand words in here if you'd like to, but keep this one super simple so that if someone was to walk on an elevator with you and they're like just making small talk of like, hey, like, what do? You could easily say what you do in one line and it makes sense and it clicks and it seems intriguing. So start with your one liner messages. And it can also be, like I said, if you're adding in some brand words in there, you could say, oh, I'm a wedding photographer for couples who elope in Colorado, like something like that. So it can be specific so that it really attracts. And so if someone was like, oh, well, I'm having a big wedding in Michigan, doesn't really make sense for them or it doesn't really click with them to hire a photographer or be drawn to you if you photograph elopements in Colorado. So it's okay to also use this one liner to attract and repel clients as well, but it's also just very simple. Do not overcomplicate that one. And then number 2 is I want you to think of things in a problem solution focused way. And so not just dwelling on the negative problems, not only ever talking about the problems, but it's really important for you to just know your ideal client's problems, what they are, when they have them, identifying them, what it looks like to have them, what it feels like to have them, and then how you are the solution. You are bringing these two things together, but you're not just saying, oh yeah, if you're awkward in front of the camera, I can fix that. I'm your solution. No, how are you my solution? What do you do? What is your specific process and your unique approach that will help bridge those gaps? Like don't just say, "Oh, I'll make you feel comfortable. We're going to have fun. Everyone loves it. All my clients say that they love it." No, I need more than that. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people think that they're using social proof and validation when they say those types of things, but we need to be so much more specific than that. I want you to tell me exactly what you're doing to make sure that that problem is being solved. And why are you the only one that's going to solve it and solve my problem in a way that no one else can? And I think that's what's really important. And I think that's the details that people are forgetting or just they're missing out on, is that we're almost too vague with, oh yeah, we're your solution and I'll make you feel comfortable. But no, I want to know why and how you're going to make me feel comfortable and why no one else can do what you're going to do. So that you can think in terms of your posing approach, your editing style, your communication style, how you make people feel, not just that you make people feel comfortable. What do you do that makes people feel comfortable? And then even take those answers of everything that I just went over, write those things down. And then with each of those areas, I want you to kind of do like that 7 layers deep exercise where then you just take that reasoning and then you ask yourself why. Okay, well, my posing approach, okay, so their problem is maybe that they feel uncomfortable or awkward in front of the camera. Your solution is that you make people feel really comfortable, right? Well, how do you make people feel comfortable? Oh, well, I customize my posing approach to be what makes sense for them. Okay, well, why? Well, because I've had clients in the past where I've tried to pose them, it didn't quite work, or I felt like it didn't really communicate their relationship and like the photo, it didn't translate in photos. Okay, well, why? Oh, I guess because I didn't take the time to really do that. And now I do. Oh, well, why? Well, because it's really important for me that my couples feel this way. Okay, why? Well, you know what I mean? Like, just continue to ask yourself why in everything, in all of your answers, in your approach to everything, because that's going to get to that really deep rooted meaning of why you do things. And once you start to ask yourself why, these answers are going to start coming up that you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that, I guess. Or I maybe did subconsciously, but I didn't realize that this is why I do this, or that this is connected to this. You can bridge those gaps. You can be the one to not only bridge those gaps in your mind, but bridge those gaps for your clients and use them through words. And then that's just a way that you can talk about yourself in your marketing, on your About Me page, in your bio, in your marketing materials, all of that, like on the phone calls that you do. You can articulate that and use that as bridging people's gaps for the problem solution focused messaging. I'm interrupting my own episode to give you a quick glimpse into my signature coaching program created for established photographers wanting to double to quadruple their prices, book their highest package, and bring in inquiries consistently. This is my high level container of go-to photographers who are making huge waves in the industry. And the biggest difference in this program is that we get a full 12 months together for deep dive transformation, weekly coaching call support, 4 coaches in the program to deep dive into specific topics, and a content retreat, all included in one program. And I always say, if you can book one extra wedding from your year in the program together, you're going to see your ROI. And it's just the weekly norm wins for my students. So I'm fully confident that you're going to be able to do that and way, way more. And this is an application, phone call, and acceptance process only type of program. So if you are curious if this is the right next steps for you to just blow up your business this year, you can fill out the application at racheltraxler.com/apply or get the link in the show notes. I'll be in touch shortly after you fill it out so that we can talk through together if this is the right fit for you. I'm very honest with people and I want this to be a great fit for everyone involved. That's just my heart behind the way I do this process. And I also think that's why my students just see so much success in this program. So don't just be an information consumption overload this year. I want you to be an action taker and start implementing change into your business. So again, if this feels aligned to you, fill out the application at racheltraxler.com/apply to apply for my Passion to Profit coaching program. And then number 3 is having an elevator pitch. This is much like I actually said the one-liner messaging of your elevator pitch. If someone was to walk in an elevator with you and say, hey, what do you do? And this also, though, when I think the difference between an elevator pitch and a one-liner messaging in terms of what I'm talking about right here is one-liner messaging. Yes, it's very similar to an elevator pitch, but with an elevator pitch, I want you to bring in more keywords that you could plug and play into like the header top fold of your website or your Instagram bio. So I want to see more location specific, more brand word specific. This one can be a little bit lengthier, not too lengthy, like a 1 to 2 sentence max. But I would love to just see more keywords infused in your elevator pitch that it can be written in your marketing materials, in your Instagram bio. So that again, people can read that and say, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. And that's exactly what I need. And this is the exact approach that I'm really wanting as well. And then that way, again, you can plug these things in and it just takes pressure off of you about the way that you're talking about yourself. And then number 4 is just simplify everything. I think we overcomplicate things when in reality, we all do things the same, yet very, very different. So I want you to just take the same thing, as in we're photographers, we're wedding photographers, we are Wisconsin wedding photographers, whatever that looks like. There's always multiple people in your area or multiple people doing what you do. But I want you to tie together what makes you different to the simplified things. So take the simple and add in what makes you unique and combine them together. And that's where you're going to start to infuse and find your own brand voice and your own messaging. And this is something that takes a lot of time because finding your own brand voice and your own messaging and your tone of voice does take a while to kind of translate. But really, it's there all along. You have it, it's who you are. You just need to connect the two. For some reason, connecting your in person, like personality and tone of voice and messaging and all that sometimes can be hard to translate online and into words that you put online. So, I want you to just strip down any complications and just be super simple with it and just combine the two together. Another thing, number 5, is that I really want to talk about, but just articulate all of these things on your website and think in the client's buyer journey or just their experience with you of where they are at and put that review and put that verbiage exactly where they are going to consume that at that point of the process. And then number 6, the last, which I think is one of the most important things of changing the way you talk about yourself, is actually change it to talking about them. So you can use all of this information about you and who you are and why you do what you do and what you like to do outside of photography and almost use connection points. So a lot of photographers, when they write their about me page, a lot of it is just about them, which I understand you want to connect with people. But what I want you to think of is changing your mindset to, instead of having all of this information about you, think of turning them into connection points. So basically that's maybe a handful of things that are really that mean a lot to you and that also make sense and tie your brand together as well. And that's going to help attract and speak to people that say, oh, I really love this too. So, just an example of like a student that I have, she's a very Western themed styled photographer, and she's a really easy example for me to talk about a lot of things because she is so different and so unique that I can help her tie those things together and it just makes sense to use it as an example. And so some of her connection points that she uses on her website is that she loves the show Yellowstone. That makes complete sense because she's a very Western style themed photographer. Her husband is a rancher. They live in Colorado. Like everything she does outside of her business really makes sense and resonates with who she is and what she likes to do and how her style directly affects that. And then circling back to the FAQ section, I was able to help her kind of pull out her brand voice with that. So instead of like, she had a question that said something like, do I travel? And her answer was basically just like, yes, I love to travel. And here are the places that I would like to travel. Like, those are answers that everyone is reading and everyone says the same thing. But instead, to pull her personality, her brand voice, and her tone of voice, I suggested that she had something that says, do you travel? And then her answer was, is Rip the hottest cowboy in town? Of course I travel. And Rip is just one of the cowboys on the show Yellowstone. So her ideal clients are going to understand that. She already mentioned she liked Yellowstone. Those are connection points. And she's pulling in and utilizing her brand voice. So that is just more fun. It's speaking to direct clients. And it's just going to translate so much better. It's easier to talk about yourself in that way too, if you can also just talk more about your clients. So instead of just talking about you on your about page, talk about your unique approach, your unique methods, and why you are the best solution for your potential client. Why and how and what can people get from you that they can only get from you, and how are you going to serve them, and how are they going to benefit from working with you? How are their lives going to change after working with you? And you guys, oh my gosh, that makes it so much easier to talk about yourself and just talk about your services versus just talking about yourself, if that makes sense. Like, it's easier to talk about your services than it is to talk about yourself. Instead of saying, "Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm from Wisconsin. I like to travel. I have 2 kids." Like, I don't know really else what else to say. Like, what else do you want to know? I can say, "No, my name is confidently. My name is Rachel. I am a Wisconsin photographer helping couples bring out warm, joyful experiences, helping them leave their sessions more in love than they came through my unique posing approach because I customize all of my poses specifically to you. So that's why people always leave feeling more in love than they came because of the specific approach that I created for my clients. I specifically created that for you that you can only get from me." So using more of that verbiage helps because I'm taking things that people have told me and just reversing it back into my marketing and back into my verbiage and in my copy and starting to infuse it in places. And or I've had students say that I'm like the magic inquiry dust fairy, like fairy dust. Every time that they come to me, my students come to me and say, "I'm not getting inquiries." And then I talk to them that all of a sudden they get a boom of inquiries. So I sprinkle inquiry dust on them. I never would have called myself the inquiry fairy and giving people magic dust or giving the Rachel magic that everyone talks about that they say. I would never say those words about myself. I'm taking verbatim, word for word, what other people have said about me and what my services have done for them and how that has changed their lives and impacted their businesses. I'm taking those exact words and I'm infusing it in my marketing. Because chances are, if this is what I'm doing in my services and it resonates with someone who's already working with me and is seeing results from working with me, it's going to also translate and work well for other ideal clients as well, if that makes sense. So I'm really hoping that those are some good tips and just almost like positive encouragement, really, if nothing else, of what to do to change the way you talk about yourself, how to show up, maybe inspiration of where to pull verbiage from, where to plug it in. And yeah, I just really hope that that was helpful. And if you loved this episode as much as I did, make sure to screenshot it and share it to your stories and tag me at Rachel Traxler so that I can see which ones you're loving the most and then also share the love in return. But thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you so, so, so much. And as always, keep shining, and we'll see you next time.